I've been with Zoho for more than 10 years now. Prior to Zoho, I and two friends of mine had a small agency here in Delhi. We ran that for about 4.5, 5 years, and I joined Zoho a little over 10 years ago. And over the last 10 years, I dabbled in different roles, primarily around product marketing. And for the last several years, now me and my team, we look at the Zoho brand in terms of how we position ourselves, how we drive business, how we drive everything from awareness to engagement to content, right, at the brand level. So yeah, that's my background at Zoho, and we have a small office here in Delhi / Noida, and it's not the mothership, which is in Chennai, as you're aware. But happy to answer questions that you may have for me. Yeah, I mean, if you look at the whole genesis of content marketing itself, especially from a product company, I mean, we at Zoho take an immense pride in being a product first company, right? I mean, we like to, in fact, even internally when you talk about product marketing, the reason it's product marketing, we call it, is because it's very close to the product, right? A product marketer, the first thing we encourage young / new marketers in the company is to acquire the product knowledge, the one that they're working on. Because we've always believed that content for the sake of content doesn't add any value to anybody, right? So it's not about counting the number of words or the format or you know how you decorate that piece. It's about, are you able to add value, or rather, are you able to create content that is useful for a customer or a prospect, right? Because when you're able to add value to his or her life, that's when there would be a sense of affinity that will develop between a prospect and a brand. Now what happens is, in this process, a product marketing role at Zoho itself is very, very content heavy. All kinds of content, everything from sales enablement to long form content, social media copies, working closely with different teams internally to create the best kind of content. Now, what we've seen has happened over the years is, because content has become so crucial for the narrative that you have, right? Not just positioning, but the kind of messaging you create based on the need or the channels, right? It's come to a stage where, unless you are really good at content, it's hard to succeed in product marketing roles, right? So it's a very important skill set. And the way it has evolved, back in the day, product marketing initially, I would say 10, 15 years ago maybe, was more of a science function than an arts function, right? If I put it that way. Maybe it's a bit of an oversimplification, but now we look at that ability to create creative content a lot more. And a lot of interesting new young people that are joining us, we see immense potential in them in the ability to create content. Yeah, so like I said, the recipe for a product marketer or a content marketer to succeed, we look at, is understanding the product first, be the customers, the need, the use cases, all of that, and then the market, which is your competition and everything else. That's the recipe for, how do you succeed, how you do better, right? Now, tools, if you talk about, we use a bunch of tools. Most tools that we use internally at Zoho are homegrown tools, right? Everything from, we use Zoho Writer to edit, to create, right? Which is our own writing software. Interestingly, the privilege sometimes we have is, we do so many things that a lot of our own tools come into existence, and not just on marketing. I mean, we use our own payroll system to manage our payrolls, for that matter, right? We use our own email for our business email, so on and so forth. Collaboration software, all of that. So what happens in the case of content is, yes, we use a bunch of tools, mix of internal and external. Even for analytics, we use we moved away from all third-party tools that essentially drop a pixel on your website. And I think we're the only SaaS company that sort of did that globally, not just in India, where we say we don't use. So if you go to Zoho.com, you don't see any third-party cookie running on it, right? Like none, zero. Now, that's something that we've been claiming for a few years now, which is hard for most companies to do. And that's happening because we've invested so much in R&D that a lot of our tools internally get front and center. So from content creation to analytics, now in terms of research, what you mentioned, we still use some third-party tools that sort of help us, or at least the person who's creating the content, to understand what are the trends, what topics are more in demand, volume, things like that. So yeah, we use third-party tools and platforms to do that research, but most other tools at Zoho are pretty much homegrown. See, I've practically tried out a bunch of these tools that are supposedly content creation tools, AI-led. If you ask me, did anything I tried would replace a member on the team? I would say no, at least today, right? So I'm of a belief that AI would actually help and augment good content writers to become great content writers instead of replacing them outright, right? And at least in the near future, right? We don't know what will happen in 10 years from now. But from whatever I've seen, right, and there are specific needs and use cases where I see AI adds value in terms of even upfront content creation. Like, for example, you want to run a short ad campaign, could be on any of the social networks for that matter. You want a list of a bunch of ad copies quickly generated for you. You do that using a tool, and then you have human intervention to sort of prune that list and then make it better, right? So it saves time and it gives you a extended sort of I would say arms to sort of bring in more into the funnel, right? But if you tell me that, okay, am I going to replace a copywriter with an AI bot? No, it's not there yet, is what I would say, right? Never say never, but it's not there yet, right? But how I see, like I said, is it adds value in a content marketer's life for her to be able to improve the copies that he or she can create. That's the value that I see. Okay, if I think of it from a very original thought of let's keep AI everything aside, what is it when I sit down to write something today? What do I need? I need to have some conviction into what I'm writing about. Like, I'm not someone who's passionate about cars in general. Like, if you ask me to sit down and write the review for a latest a car from an automobile company, I would struggle to it, right? I may use internet to get some tidbits, learn some, put some thoughts, but the first thing is to have the conviction about that topic, whether it's a product or industry or whatever it is, right? Unfortunately, you can't bake that, certainly, right? I mean, you build that conviction based on certain passion, certain interests, certain affinity that you build around something, right? In our case, let's say it's B2B SaaS software, right? And within that, there are so many domains. We serve for sales, marketing, HR, finance. Some people generally have more interest towards financial topics. Some people are generally more passionate about customer experience, right? Some people are passionate about low-code application development, right? When you have that passion, that sense of conviction into it, that becomes your base to be able to. So again, you can't bake that into a stack. That has to be more inherent, right? Now, once you cross that, let's consider that taken care of. What you need, a content writer needs a good environment to sit down and write. I don't mean the physical environment. What I need is when you sit down, do you have the right resources? Do you have the right editor? Do you have a right editor which takes care of the hygiene stuff, right? The spell checks of the world and making sure the copy is clean, all that, right? Then once you're done with that, you need someone who can help you review your content, right? Ideally, a human being, right? Could be your peer, your colleague, your senior. In some cases, some companies work with third parties, whatever it is. Can you bake that workflow into your environment or the tool or the stack that you call it, right? How can you pull in good references into it, right? Can you automate some of that? Would be an added help, I would say, right? Once it's all ready, how quickly can you take it live? Depending on where you want to publish it, right? Is it going as a blog or is it going as a research paper somewhere? Or you just want a PDF for you're writing something for the sales team? Are you converting that into a presentation? Whatever it is, right? How quickly can that content that has been created be moved into the right format, right place? That's also part of the stack, I would say, right? All of these put together makes my job easier as a content writer, given that I have the conviction and the domain knowledge, so to say. Again, domain knowledge also is something I think you can acquire, right? I mean, it's not rocket science to acquire domain knowledge about anything pretty much today. What is harder is to build that conviction, to build that, second order, third order thinking into a domain. And a lot of these times, these thinking patterns developed with so many other conversations and reading that happens or people you meet, which is again serendipity, right? So that's where I would start. Once you've built that, Everything else that I said, from being able to write in a good editor, to get it reviewed properly, to have supporting references into the mix, and then to be able to create into a piece or a format based on the need. That, I think, for me is the entire stack, how I visualize it. Unfortunately, I don't think there is something like that today exists. There are mixes of things here and there that different teams use. But I'm not aware of something that sort of ties everything together very, very neatly.